It is 00:00. And you are listening to the Best of Bond with your hosts Tylord and Wubs.
I must say, it's lethal.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Best of Bond with Wubs and Tylord, your hosts. And today is the second entry in our new series reviewing every Bond movie. We did Dr. No last time. This time, it's going to be a highlight of my life right here. I wanted to do this forever. I know you feel the same.
Absolutely.
We're going to review the second James Bond movie, one of my favorite movies ever made. I'm sure you agree with that. From Russia with Love.
Yes.
Today we are going to review From Russia with Love. We'll try to get it under 2 hours, but I don't know about that. I know we both love this movie. We've been hyped up. We've been trying not to talk about it amongst each other for the past week as we've been viewing it. But today we are going to review From Russia with Love, one of our favorite movies. But before we do that, introducing the co-host, here's Wubs. How you doing, Wubs?
I'm doing great, Tylord. Like you said, I've been so excited to have this particular conversation since our Dr. No talk went so well, and the anticipation for this, I can't even tell you. I think it's probably like the biggest anticipation from one film to a next that I'll have in the entire series. So I've been trying to hold back all of our conversations this week, not give anything away, and just hold on to the excitement for this one.
Oh, absolutely. And I was able to watch this one on Blu-ray twice. We'll talk about that more in a bit. But before we get started, I kind of want to thank the viewers again and all the commenters, and just maybe throw out a little idea about viewer interaction. I was thinking maybe we could get 30-second clips of viewers discussing who their favorite James Bond is, who their favorite actor is, and maybe they could send it to me through Discord, and I can make a little compilation of viewers' takes on who their favorite James Bond is and why.
Yeah.
Or maybe we can even do 3-minute clips. Depends on how long, how many we get. I was just throwing that idea out. So if anyone is interested in that, contact me. I'm Tylord on Discord, or Tylord79 on Instagram. If you're interested in I could put together a compilation video of some viewers' recordings on who their favorite James Bond is and why. I was thinking we could do 30 seconds or maybe 3 minutes. I don't want to make it too long, but just throwing that idea out. So if anyone's interested, comment below and let me know. We can get a hold of you. Also, if I want to throw out this to our buddy Omega Ace Gaming, who helped us with the intro. He won't shut up about 1954 Climax TV's Casino Royale with I think the actor is Barry Nelson that plays James Bond, the first on-screen adaptation of Bond. Omega Ace, our buddy, he won't shut up about that. So I kind of wanted to offer out, if Omega Ace, you want to come on and talk about that movie with us, because it's a shorter movie. I think all three of us could delve into that movie. And maybe you could come on and talk about Casino Royale 1954 with us. Just throwing that out right now. You don't have to. I know he's busy just like us. But I thought I'd throw out that idea. But other than that, the fan interaction, or the James Bond fan interaction with the viewer recordings might be fun.
Absolutely.
So I just throw that out. If you're interested, let me know below. Shout out to Omega Ace as always, of course. But we have another shout out. Wubs has officially launched his new channel. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, it's called My Top 5, and I'm doing interviews with fellow gamers and film critics about their 5 favorite video games and movies. And the first few episodes have already been edited. They'll be coming up very soon. I've already got a few clips over there. Tylord will drop a link in the description. You guys can check it out for sure. But anyone who is into gaming and film will probably enjoy this channel a lot. I'm doing long format podcast style interviews, just like this channel here, where we really dive deep into the subject matter, and it's all about personal stories and reflections and memories around different video games and film.
Excellent. Yeah, I can't wait to listen to that. Like I was saying, I love long format videos. It's great for like listening on the treadmill at the gym. or if
Right.
I have a tedious job if I have a tedious job at work, I can listen to it. I love long format stuff like that. And you're so natural at this. I assumed you had done something like this before, but I can't wait to see what you put together with these because you're such a natural at doing stuff like this, and you've been a big help with me doing this this James Bond series. So I can't wait to hear that
Well,
series. And of course, I'll put a link down below.
I give you all the credit because of being able to co-host the show with you. It's been super fun. I've really enjoyed the production and all the work we've done, behind the scenes as well. You absolutely inspired me to do this
Yeah.
other channel, and I feel like I've learned a lot just working on your show that I'm gonna take over to that one as well. So
Uh,
I can't thank you enough. I give you a ton of credit for what's to come over there.
uh, well, I'm honored. Like I said, I've never really done anything like this before up until this, but I'm honored you would say that. I have had experience on podcasts thanks to my good buddy, like Retro Tiburon. I've been
Right.
on his podcast, so I think maybe that gave me a little bit of experience. But that I'm no podcast guy, but yeah, in the past I've been on like my buddy Physical Media Mack. I've been on his show. I've been on Retro Tiburon's Retro Wave. I've been on the Button Mappers a couple times, and
Sure.
our buddy Vince, Dad Level Podcast. I think you've been on with him before.
Yep.
So it's those Dad Level Podcast. Shout out to him. So just getting a little experience like that throughout the last few years kind of motivated me to do that. So shout out to all of those guys too, because
Absolutely.
I don't really didn't really have a clue to do how to do any of this.
Well,
Um,
it's interesting how different our stuff is, but it's such a cool group of friends that we've got that are involved in making podcasts and YouTube
yeah,
videos, and I'd like to say thank you
yeah.
to all of those guys as well. Retro Tiburon, I've been on his show
Yeah.
before. Well, I've been on his live streams. We've played games together before and
Hmm.
on the streams, and that was
Yeah.
really a fun experience for me as well. And doing
Yeah.
Vince's podcast over at Dad Level Podcasts was a lot of fun. And I love these things
Hmm.
because we can dive so deep into the things that we love, and with our conversations, the way that they flow, it's just if you're an outsider listening in on you're really just looking at a group of friends playing the games that they love and talking about the movies, the TV shows, the toys, all the things that you can tell like there's so much
Yeah.
passion for it in this community, and I absolutely feel honored and very blessed to be a part of it. So thank you to all of those guys, Omega Ace and Retro Ryan as well.
Yeah. Retro Ryan's another good one. Yeah. Yeah, this is a good friend of both of ours. Retro Ryan has some
Yep.
great stuff. Great the little community he has.
He's given me a lot of great advice
And
for YouTube as well. So, and I'd just like to say thank you to Retro Ryan and Omega Ace as well, because they've been very helpful with advice around YouTube and how to do production and things like that. So thank you both for all of your assistance for both myself and Tylord.
absolutely. Yes. And with that, I guess it's time to get started. We're going to talk about From Russia with Love today from 1963. What did you think about this movie before our most recent viewing? And what's your history with watching this movie?
From Russia with Love is such an iconic picture. First of all, before I even watched it this time, it was one of the films I would have said absolutely defined the Cold War and the 1960s, making films in the 1960s. If I thought of films from the 1960s, From Russia with Love is easily in the top five for me personally, as far as like just a
Yeah.
film that defined the period. And I think that you cannot overstate the gap that happened between. Let me just start with Doctor No, saying that what it must have been like for audiences to see Doctor No in 1962 after everything else they'd seen. There had been some cool action films, of course. North by Northwest comes to mind, some of the
Hmm.
other Hitchcock films. we had all of the film noir from the 50s and the 40s that was the detective films and things like that. But it was such a different thing than anything else that had come before it, even so, right? And I think that the same thing essentially was achieved by Terrence Young and the crew that worked on From Russia with Love, going from Dr. No to From Russia with Love. It was such a massive jump in what
Yeah.
could be done in an action film between the two of them. And
Yeah.
and it's still to this day, it's like just watching it again, it's like I'm continuously, every time I see it, I see something new. I learn something new about how they did the production or a certain section or film or what the actors were doing, and
Hmm.
it just never fails to amaze me how brilliant that movie is. So even going into this, I already had that opinion because I've seen the film, I'm sure, a dozen times throughout my life, and
Hmm.
it has progressively grown in importance for me throughout my life. When I saw it for the first time, I enjoyed it. I think I liked it more than Doctor No, but it wasn't one that I could even appreciate that much because I saw it when I was so young. The intricacies of
Hmm.
the plot, the political significance of the time was sort of lost on me because I didn't know that much about
Hmm.
Western history at the time. And
Hmm.
so now when I watch the film, I have that perspective of, not only what was happening in Hollywood at the time, but also the world and the political significance of using the Cold War as the backdrop of the plot that just added this
Yeah.
level of realism to this fantastical kind of story that
Hmm.
just wasn't there at all in Doctor No. Right, Doctor No was absolutely
Right.
more of a fantasy, larger than life, supervillain. Obviously, created. That was
Hmm.
the classical Bond villain introduction to film. But in
Yeah.
this movie, From Russia with Love, it's like they go in a totally different direction. They go the opposite of high fantasy, and they go for the gritty reality of the Cold
Yeah.
War in
Yeah.
Istanbul, and it's so fascinating how well that it still works. You would think that these were almost totally different characters, but Sean Connery plays it so well, so it's perfectly believable. This was the same guy that took
Yeah.
down a megalomaniac supervillain in Jamaica just not even a year
Yeah.
ago, probably, and now he's helping a Russian agent defect to the West in a real
Yeah.
world 1963.
Yeah, and it is a direct. This is the one that's definitively a direct sequel to the previous movie, and you don't really see that too much. This one is a direct sequel to Doctor No,
Yes,
and but it is such a different movie, like you said, like same guy, a lot same crew, a lot of the same actors, but totally different movie. A lot of it has to do, I think, also that fantastical element's not quite there, and I think a lot of that has to do with Ken Adam, the set designer's gone, and Sid Kane, who I think was perfect for this movie because it's not really over the top layers in this movie. It's mostly like trains and gypsy camps and the interior of the Orient Express train and all that. I think it worked. Sid Kane made that work really well.
absolutely. Talking about set design, the only set in the entire film, in my opinion, that feels more like a Ken Adams set is the post-title sequence, the chess match, because it's such an ornate and elaborate
Yeah,
setting. But that's the last one in the film. That's the fanciest room that you're in
yeah,
the whole film, and it's just in the first few minutes.
yeah. And that is a beautiful room. When I was a kid, I assumed there was really places like that where people would play chess on television, like championships, like a sport, where the floor looks like a giant checkerboard, and that was such a cool set that chess competition where Kronstein he's so casual, like oh Spectre needs me to report in, so I'm just gonna beat this guy really quick, but
Right.
but and then the mastermind of the big plot. We'll get to the plot in a bit, but Yeah, wonderful sets in this movie, especially that one. But even like the gypsy camp and the interior shots. The train isn't actually a real train. I think the old Sid Kane and maybe the director checked out a real train on the Orient Express and came back with what they had and made a nicer, fancier one that looks better on film. But like I said, when I was a kid, I thought that was a real train interior. It looked so natural. But yeah, but as far as I go, this movie has always been up there on top for me. I think it's one of the earliest movies I saw, which is a surprise. Like the same with Doctor No. I maybe watched the same four movies over and over: Doctor No, From Russia with Love, Goldfinger, and The Spy Who Loved Me, because those were the ones available at the library, and
Hmm.
I loved every bit of them, every one of them. It doesn't have like the action and the fantastical elements like Spy Who Loved Me and Goldfinger, but it had just that same guy that I grew to to love, James Bond, from Goldfinger and The Spy Who Loved Me. The same character is here, and he's cool as ever. And I didn't really understand the plot, like you said back then, but just seeing James Bond and how he interacts with people in this movie, it was just so cool. I just love seeing James Bond and seeing him walk. He just something about James Bond was always so cool. Like when you see him walking through a crowd, like when he's walking through Istanbul, through the marketplace or wherever he is, he just like sticks out like he's so tall with his nice suit on. I always love this movie, and I remember I thought it was really slow compared to the other ones I would watch. And as an adult, I grew to really appreciate the plot. Like they say, the more I watch it, the more I notice little things in the movie, and I think I like it more and more with every viewing. But I always liked it ever since the beginning, just because it was like one of the few I had access to.
Hmm.
And then as I saw the other movies, I always probably still had this placed in my top five, if not top three. I think at one point I proclaimed this to be my favorite James Bond movie. I loved it so much.
It's not a
But
bad choice, right?
yeah.
I would not hold that against anybody if they chose this as their favorite
Yeah.
film. It is long since we're talking about it. I'll just say it is my favorite Connery film.
Oh, cool, cool. Yeah, yeah. Well, it's a toss up for me. Like it depends on what day it is. So this this is always up there though. And I know it was JFK's favorite book. I don't know
Right.
about the movie though, but the book is fantastic as well. I'll probably try to sprinkle in some of the book stuff in here from time to time. I don't want to give it all away because I know a lot of people haven't read the books.
Right.
And I know I probably spilled too many beans on Doctor No, so I'll try not to talk too much. But the book, there are some differences between the movie and the book, but it's one of the ones that's more similar to the book.
Hmm.
And it starts off with a bang, with a gun barrel opening, and this is like the first movie that starts the formula of the gun barrel opening into the pre-title sequence and then into the title sequence with the music. And this is the first time that's ever happened, and it's happened pretty much ever since this movie. The second movie, they dialed it in right here. And we start off with a gun barrel opening with a fantastic John Barry soundtrack. What do you think about the intro, the opening of this movie?
If you haven't seen it, stop whatever you're doing and go watch it right now. Turn us off and go Google the From Russia with Love title sequence. Because
Yeah,
you're gonna have your socks blown off if you haven't seen that before. And I mean, John Barry just came out swinging, right? There is just no
yeah,
comparison. I know we don't want to take anything away from Monty Norman doing the soundtrack of the first one, but Barry just blew it away off of the first few
yeah,
minutes of the film.
yeah. And this is the first time you really get that taste of that classic John Barry sound that, like, I think people associate John Barry's sound with James Bond. It's kind of mysterious and unsettling type music he does, combined with like big band, like brassy stuff and some
Yep.
jazzy. elements. I think it's totally timeless. I love John Barry music. This one might be sound a little bit older, but nothing like Doctor No. Like this sounds like generations ahead of Doctor No's soundtrack.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you said, taking nothing away from that classic piece that Monty Norman wrote, the James Bond theme, which John Barry I think perfects in this movie and throughout the series. Um,
Yes.
we get just the music during the opening scene where we see James Bond, where we think that's James Bond. We see Sean Connery in a suit, like a dinner suit, and I think that's the only time in the movie we see him in a dinner suit, right? Like the classic James Bond look, and it's not even really James Bond. We see Red Grant, the villain, the movie's main henchman, stalking what appears to be James Bond through an elaborate hedge maze in front of a chateau or some kind of building,
Shot on the
which
back
is
lot
is a
of Pinewood,
yeah,
right?
yes, Pinewood. Yeah, I guess that is a garden, a hedge garden they have there, and they put all of the statues and everything in there. Really cool look, great lighting, great the suspenseful moment. You see Bond, and he doesn't look like his usual self. Like he's kind of afraid and unsure. And the guy with all the confidence stalking him is Robert Shaw playing Red Grant, another one of my favorite actors, stalking this guy that looks like James Bond. What do you think of the opening pre-title sequence?
I think it was brilliant, because, and I think it was Harry Saltzman had the idea to kill James Bond in the pre-title sequence, and it was considered one of his better ideas. He was apparently famous for every 10 ideas he would
Mm,
have, about 8 of them were pretty bad, but 2 of them more than made up for it, according to the interviews I listened to. He'd had 2 ideas that were
yeah,
really great for about every 10. So, which I think for something like
yeah,
James Bond was probably perfect, right? Because you needed somebody thinking really outside the box, larger than
yes,
life kinds of concepts and things. So we're
yeah.
very fortunate that he was producing.
No, yeah. Yeah, I'm glad a lot of his ideas slipped in there. I think throughout the series, up through Man with the Golden Gun, a lot of his weird ideas his good ideas would slip in there. And
Yeah.
I'm wondering if any of the bad ones ever did. I've heard some weird ones, but yeah, no, I'm super happy with that intro and seeing the villain of this movie is so scary, and we don't never hear him talk until the end. It's such a good build up at the beginning. There's a
Yep.
lot of foreshadowing in this. Like we see what we think is Bond facing Red Grant, and he chokes him with the garrote wire on the watch.
Right.
So it's a lot of foreshadowing to what happens later on. Like he's going to be stalking the real Bond later on, and this guy that looks like Bond in this like sort of little it's like some kind of little training game he's doing in this hedge maze at night, and he's hunting this agent that looks like James Bond, and it's so cool to see Robert Shaw. Like I said, I watched this movie so much when I was a kid, and I would watch it back to back with Jaws, and that's my favorite movie of all time. That's not a Bond movie is Jaws,
Right.
and Robert Shaw's in both of them. He's so different. Like I was saying, I watched these movies back to back when I was a kid, and I didn't realize it was the same guy. I didn't realize Red Grant. I didn't
Oh
realize
wow.
I could have just read the credits, but I didn't realize Red Grant was Quint. And I think Spielberg did get Robert Shaw because he liked his performance in From Russia with Love, and that's why he
Oh
wanted
wow.
Robert Shaw to play Quint in Jaws.
Oh,
But
that's
but
cool.
yeah, so so uh, so then we see Grant with all the epic John Barry music. There's a lot of like the subtle, slow, like sneaky John Barry music, and then the big climax at the end when he's choking James Bond with a garrote and he kills him, and then the lights come on, and here comes some of the Spectre agents. One of them is actor. He plays General Gogol in the later movies, the John Glenn movies. Walter Gattel. You see him
Hmm.
walk up. I
Hmm.
always thought it was the same guy. Like, why is General Gogol? working with Spectre, but he walks up and goes to the dead body of what we think is Bond. He pulls the Mission Impossible rubber mask off of him, and it's some other guy. It's not Bond.
Right.
So I guess they just killed some guy that looks like Bond for training him, I guess. And then it cuts to the opening sequence, or the opening title sequence. And I know this is one of your favorite songs. You want to talk about the
Yeah.
opening credit titles?
Absolutely. That whole thing as a concept of let's kill James Bond after Doctor No, like right
Yeah,
in the opening sequence, was so cool.
yeah,
And so you've just been in shock, right? Because it's quite violent.
yeah,
Robert Shaw
yeah,
doing the actual kill there with the garrote
yeah.
watch is very, I mean, it's instantly more brutal and raw than anything you saw in Doctor No by far.
Mm-hmm,
Just in that opening sequence, I think.
mm-hmm,
And
yeah,
and of course, as you said, the fact that he doesn't talk at all, he's just this cold, calculated killer. It absolutely
mm-hmm,
builds that suspense, like you said. I totally agree. So that happens,
yeah,
and then just a few seconds later, you find out, okay, it wasn't James Bond, but wow, this is quite a big operation here set up to train this guy to kill James Bond, apparently. And then that
yeah,
Barry music hits, and it's so heavy and exciting immediately, and it's got this again the larger than life feel to it, even though this is a more grounded film in the political
yeah.
realities of the time. It's just
Mm-hmm,
like you immediately think like, wow, this is way bigger than the last film, and just the feel of
mm-hmm,
it right away.
yeah, yeah. I
So,
love it.
and then you got that awesome belly dancing sequence, the way that they shot the
Yeah,
titles on the one belly dancer who I believe was one of the gypsies later in the film. It was the same
yeah. She was. Yeah,
actress,
she
right?
was the belly dance. Yeah, she was. Yeah, the belly dancer at the camp. I don't think I wrote her name down, but
Right.
yeah, really talented dancer. They had to play the dancer in the gypsy scene and do the titles. The titles were projected onto her
Yep.
body and over her hands while she's dancing. And really cool looking. The opening effects were done by Robert Brown John,
Right.
who did Goldfinger after this, and I think those are the only two he did. And then it goes back to the Maurice Bender
Mm-hmm.
um, style intros, and I think those just became what Bond intros are. The Maurice Benders after that with
The
the
shadows.
silhouettes of the
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but
Right.
I love these Robert Brown John intros too. Especially this From Russia with Love one.
I think they were important
Yeah,
for what was to come later
yeah,
because
yeah,
if you hadn't had Brown John's work, it probably would have been harder to break away from what became the standard for so long after that. So
yeah.
by the time, what was Maurice Bender's last title sequence?
It was probably License to Kill. I'm not sure though, because I know
Okay,
Kleinen came in for GoldenEye, so I'm thinking it
yeah,
was his last one was probably License to Kill. I'm not 100% positive though.
that makes sense. But
Yeah,
even Maurice did a lot of other work then, if it included the films from the
yeah,
80s, right? It wasn't just
yeah,
the silhouette work.
yeah.
There were actually Live and Let Die and The Man with the Golden Gun come to mind, where there were actual women, in the sequence. It wasn't just their
Oh
silhouettes.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It
Um,
had to have been him. Yeah, I never thought. Yeah, Live and Let Die had like the real women
right.
that were not silhouettes. Yeah. The John Barry, I like the Matt Monroe rendition, the lyrical version of the song too that they play at the end. But I don't think it would have worked that well. Like coming in with a bang with this instrumental, like orchestrated version of the From Russia with Love theme. It starts off with that bum
Bum
bum bum
bum
bum.
bum.
Yeah, and it has like the Tim Penny. It has like the orchestra and the Tim Penny drums and all that, and oh man, such a cool song, kind of like almost on the level of like On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah, like the same exact chords, the same song as the end with Matt Monroe, but it sounds like a totally different song.
It does.
Um, yeah, I just love that
It's
opening track.
I think that that's the perfect example too of John Barry, like how brilliant he was at arranging. Because
Yeah,
that instrumental version of the song to me absolutely blows away the Matt Monroe one personally. Like I would
yeah,
much rather listen to that intro arranged by Barry with his other music around it, on both sides of it
yeah,
than the Matt Monroe. Nothing against Matt Monroe. You can listen to From Russia with Love with
yeah,
Matt Monroe singing it, and you're basically listening to a Frank Sinatra song, right? And
yeah,
that's
pretty
that's
much.
cool.
Yeah,
There's nothing wrong with that. I love Frank Sinatra. I love
yeah,
that style of music, that era.
yeah,
But John Barry was taking that music and rearranging it in a way that was like, all right,
hmm
this isn't just old Blue Eyes singing a nice little jazz tune here. This is
yeah,
a super agent fighting communism, right? and ultimately Spectre,
yeah,
in this
yeah,
grand scale Ian Fleming story, larger than life. I mean, everything about that song is larger than life right from the first few notes. It just
yeah,
hits you so hard immediately. You
yeah,
feel like you're in a gunfight. Like right those first few
yeah,
notes, it's like, okay, like that's what it feels like, you know.
yeah, yeah. I love it. And then, as far as locations go, after the titles, I think we go to Venice. We get a lot of Venice in this movie. I know it's probably mostly just establishing shots, but we get the chess match with Kronstein. We see that wonderful set that's actually on Pinewood, the chess match. But then,
Right.
other than that, as far as locations in this movie, we get a little bit of London, mostly just with James Bond in the MI6 setting in Moneypenny's office, where we first meet Desmond Llewellyn's Q
Right.
and M. And I noticed that this is the first time, and I don't know if there's been many times since then where you see Bond and Moneypenny and Q and M all in one room at once in one shot. I know it's before, but you don't really see it that much because he walks in and throws the hat, and
Right.
he's on the hat stand, and he said, and M's behind the door, and he doesn't know it, and he says, and he's all pleased with himself, showing off for money, Penny saying, and for my next miracle, and then he turns, and then there's Dad there behind the door, and then that shuts him. And then that shuts him down because he's already late because he's been with Sylvia Trench.
Right.
He's already late, so then he
He's
walks by a Money
he
Penny
he
and Q is there.
he's been busy in the
Yeah,
trenches.
yeah. Yeah. Speaking of Trench, we see him by the river there, and I think that's his Bentley. He has his car phone in it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, his car
Um,
phone. He's got the beeper.
yeah,
He's got the beeper that takes him to the
yeah.
car
Or the beeper.
phone,
Yeah, yeah,
like it's
yeah,
like the
yeah,
tech
yes,
in this is amazing in 1963. It's
yeah,
crazy, right?
yeah. Yes, yeah. So we see the indoor office, and that must all be Sid Kane sets, and they look just as good as the Ken Adam ones.
Right.
Um, I know there's some subtle differences, but and then other than that, we get the most of the movie takes place in Istanbul, Turkey, and we get some wonderful shots of the city there in Istanbul, and we get a lot of we get the scene inside of the Saint Sophia Mosque, which is a cool setting for a movie.
Right.
And then we get the gypsy camp, um, cool set, like probably one of my favorite scenes in all Bond movies. There's so much going on in that. But what do you think about the locations? Yeah, you get a lot of the underground passages in Istanbul, like the underground canals and all that. Really cool
Oh yeah.
sets, very cool settings in this movie. And then of course on the train, I love anything with trains. Like I haven't been on too many trains in my life, but I find them really relaxing. I've been on them a couple times, but something about this movie is so cozy. Like it's a really intense, nail bite. It's a nail biting, intense movie, but this is like a comfort movie to me. Like something about it is cozy. Like just the whole train sequence. Maybe goes on for a half hour. This movie's on the train, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're on the train for
And
quite a while.
Yeah, you get to see the inside of that big nice cathedral when he meets up with Tatiana to get the floor plans.
Right.
Um, a great setting for me. Yeah, very Cold War, like you said. Like, it almost feels like Berlin, like there's the Russians and the English or the British are both like not, kind of sort of like occupying Istanbul, and there's a lot of tension between the Russians and the British. Unlike the book, they do have a Spectre is the antagonizing group or the villains in the movie. In the book, it actually was Smersh. Like Smersh set all
Hmm.
this up to get revenge on Bond, because this is after he had screwed up their plans in Casino Royale and Live and Let Die, and a little bit in Diamonds Are Forever and in Moonraker. So the Smurfs want to kill this guy Bond. So Smurfs is the one that sets them up in the book, and they pretty much just let Tatiana. They use her as bait. They pretty much give her the Lecter to give to Bond, so they can have Red Grant kill him. And I think that it's called the Spectre in the book. The Lecter. It's called Lecter in the movie. The
Hmm.
MacGuffin device, the coding machine
Right.
that Bond is after, and Spectre is after. In the book, it was called the Spectre, and
Interesting.
and uh, and Tatiana. There's not the cool heist moment in the movie where Cameron's men plant a bomb under the city, and then that's a distraction, and Tatiana and Bond go steal the Lecter and escape through underneath the city with Karam. None of that was in the book. Same thing, like they're using the girl as bait to lure Bond in there but with the Lecter, but they pretty much just give it to her to have Bond take it, and I think it's booby trap. I don't want to give. I'm talking too much about the book. Um, but Red Grant's pretty much consistent with the book, and there's the whole train scene, which was really good. But Spectre in the book, I guess to not to alienate Russian viewers or whatever, or assuming we wouldn't always be at Cold War with the Russians, they changed the main antagonist of the movie to Spectre,
Hmm.
which was recently a development in the Ian Fleming novels in Thunderball. They just brought around Blofeld and Spectre, so they worked it nicely into the movie. I love how they tied all of Spectre into the first like half dozen movies. And so Spectre is the one that's trying to get Bond to jack the Lecter for them and kill him for revenge on Doctor No. Yeah, and then all the cool in the Mediterranean. I don't know if it's is that the Adriatic Sea there they were on. I'm not sure which. It's one of the Mediterranean seas. There's the cool boat chase at the end, and yeah, visually this movie is fantastic. I know some of the back projection we see again, and I think it's a little bit more offensive in this one than Doctor No. Like some of the back projection is fantastic, but like on the train, I think a lot of the outside, the landscape going by is all back projection. Of course, it looks fantastic.
Right.
But some of that, like in Venice on the boat, doesn't quite look right. I think it's not so much the back projection's bad; it's just the footage they have is kind of crummy.
Yeah, that's
What do you
still.
think?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I noticed that watching the
Yeah,
film too, that the back
yeah,
projection right at the
yeah,
end was pretty bad that they used.
yeah,
But it's the
yeah.
last few seconds of
Yeah.
the
What?
movie. It's not, you know.
Yeah, and like I said, there's a lot to appreciate about it too, because just like in Doctor No, you see like they're rocking around, and when they go under the bridge, there's actually a shadow over them. Like they put a lot of effort into it, but you could see them in that boat from like the establishing shot. So I wonder if they were ever even there. That was just doubles. Um,
Yeah, I don't know.
so I guess the plot. I don't want to try to off the top of my head to explain the plot because it's kind of intricate. I'm just going to read. I have my remastered collector's edition of From Russia with Love by MGM Home Video on VHS here. I'm just going to read the the back of that instead of describing the plot. It would probably take me too long to try to explain the whole plot, but I'll read the back of this. From Russia with Love, Ian Fleming's multi-million best-selling spy novel is second of the James Bond adventures to burst into action on the screen. gorgeous Soviet embassy cipher clerk Daniela Bianchi, who plays Tatiana Romanova, ensnares incorruptible British Secret Service agent James Bond 007, played by Sean Connery, in a scheme to steal the Russians' decoding machine. While battling impossible situations, Bond must try to distinguish whether this beautiful woman and others he comes in contact with work for or against him.
Mm.
Stunningly photographed in historic Istanbul, mosques, Venice, and aboard the Orient Express, this explosive Bond epic also stars legendary Lota Linea, Pedro Armendáriz in his last role, and Robert Shaw as the emotionalist killer. From Russia with Love is pure Bond action with just the right blend of tongue and chill, says the Los Angeles Times. So what do you think of the plot to this movie?
I love the plot. It's
Oh
one of
yeah,
the bigger. I'd say it's of the Bond films. It's one in which the plot plays a bigger role than some of them, right? Like it's
yeah.
in some
No,
of
yeah.
them,
It is all plot,
yeah.
very plot-driven movies. Yeah,
Right, right. Some of them tend to feel like the plot is almost just an afterthought or just not really that important. Or, some of them get to the point where,
yeah,
they get a bit repetitive at times on different things. And it's
yeah.
okay if you're a Bond fan, right? We talked about that a
Mm-hmm.
little bit in Doctor No. It's like how many times have they made
Yeah.
this film, over and over again, but it,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't matter. Like we keep buying the movie tickets, we
Mm-hmm.
keep buying the Blu-rays and the DVDs and things because
Yeah.
it doesn't get old. It's a formula that
Mm-mm.
works for us, right? Right.
Yeah.
So, but that's why From Russia with Love stands out so much. I think because just thinking offhand of the Connery films, it's totally unique compared to the others. All of the
Mm-hmm.
others that he did were pretty much the same format as Doctor No. You have some supervillain with rather
Mm-hmm.
ostentatious taste and an inflated opinion of himself who
Yeah.
inevitably has some plan for theft or domination or
Mm-hmm.
destruction of the world and underestimates Bond in an epic manner and pays the penalty for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And this
Bond
one's totally
Bond ends
like you.
up on a
Yeah.
on a boat with a woman and a bottle of
Yeah.
champagne, right?
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Well, he does. He does end up with a woman on a boat at the end on this.
right, yeah, this one
Yeah.
and what Doctor No and I'm thinking,
Yeah.
yeah, wasn't he on the raft and You Only Live Twice,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? With
Yeah. And
what's her
the
name? Yeah,
Thunderball. Thunderball. He was on there with Domino, and then he
right.
with Kissy was on there at the end on the raft. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent.
all my
And
movies end this
yeah.
way, baby.
Yeah.
It's not a
Yeah.
bad way to end a
Yeah.
movie, to be fair, right? I mean, that's why they kept doing it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I get, I love the trope, I love the gimmick and everything, but From Russia with
Yeah.
Love, still had that ending, but without all of
Mm-hmm.
the crazy villain, with the
Yeah.
the the wild, plan for domination and everything. This plot,
Yeah.
I think one reason why I like this film so much is this is a film that could have been set in World War II. And I love World War II history and
Yeah.
film and just all of studying that era of history has always been very interesting to
Mm-hmm.
me. And this film is like, I mean, rather than the Lecter, it could have easily been the Enigma machine, right? As the plot device.
Yeah.
Very similar type thing. And,
Yeah.
you know, Bond wouldn't have been able to move
Yeah. Yeah.
around in
That's a.
enemy territory quite as easily as he does
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
From
You're
Russia
right.
with
Yeah.
Love. But, still it's that same sort of thing where, in terms of technology, it's a very similar kind of setting.
Yeah. Kind of off the subject. Did you see that movie Enigma? It was directed by the guy that directed The World Is Not Enough. Have you seen? It was right from the early 2000s. Do you ever see
I
that?
think I did. I did see the Imitation Game
Oh
about the
my
Enigma
God.
device with
Oh.
Benedict
Okay.
Cumberbatch. That was, he
Okay.
plays Alan
Oh. Okay.
Turing. Yeah,
Oh man.
that was a
Yeah.
good one
Yeah.
too.
Okay. You gotta watch it. Yeah, watch Enigma. That directed The World Is Not Enough.
Okay.
It came out
Yeah.
around the same time, as World Is Not Enough, but it's about the Enigma machine. But John Barry does the soundtrack. It's his last soundtrack, and it's fucking fantastic. It's fucking awesome. Oh my god. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Cool. We'll have to
Oh
check
my,
that out.
yeah, yeah. I thought I'd throw that in. Yeah, that escaped my mind, I had to tell you about that.
No, I appreciate it. I'll definitely. That
Um,
sounds like the kind of movie I
yeah,
would love. A World War II thriller with a John Barry soundtrack. That's
yeah,
that's that's my jam, for
yeah.
sure.
Yeah, as far as the plot goes, for me, like I said, when I was a kid, I kind of understood what was going on. Like, oh, they have this machine, they're trying to get out, and Rosa Klebb has manipulated Tatiana into partaking in their operation, where they want to use her as bait to get Bond to steal the Lecter for them, and Red Grant's tracking them, like he's stalking him through the whole movie, and just until he can get the Lecter. So I always sort of understood all that stuff, but a lot of it was kind of slow and a lot of dialogue, and I didn't really understand it as a kid. But as I've watched it over the years, like I said, I really love this plot. Like a lot of intrigue. It's not really like you say, like any of the other movies. This is a lot different from any of the other movies.
Right.
It's not really a detective movie, like one clue to the next. It's more of like a spy movie.
It's
I can't really
the
compare it to in any other Bond movie.
it's the grandfather in many ways, I think, to all the spy films that came after it. Really,
Yeah,
I like you could
yeah.
probably tie, and I'm sure there's stuff that you would say came before it
Hmm.
too. But from Russia with Love, I think
Yeah.
kind of set a new standard in spy thrillers. Because
Yes.
Hitchcock had done some movies that were great too before that, right?
Hmm.
Like I mentioned before, North by
Yeah.
Northwest was like that. The Man Who Knew Too
Yeah.
Little, stuff like that. But those
Yeah.
were less based on action and more just the plot, right? Like Hitchcock was
Yeah.
really big on plot and suspense. Like that was the thing he was known for.
Yeah.
The Bond films are action movies first and foremost, right?
Yeah.
You got to have those
Yes.
fantastic, larger than life
Yeah.
action sequences, fight sequences,
Yeah.
and then the story is
Yes.
kind of built around that. So I actually was gonna say or mention, since you mentioned spy movies, I actually think of From Russia with Love. From Russia with Love is in some ways the closest James Bond ever gets to the Bourne Identity in terms of like a film structure, I think. And a lot of people, when they think spies, they either think James Bond or Jason Bourne. And I,
Yeah.
I think that's like in terms of like, obviously the plots are very different, but it's still that sort
Yeah.
of thing of like, all right, it's one man versus all of these other agents, and he's gotta
Yeah.
he's gotta be really good at fighting, other agents and stuff.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that's like From Russia with
It
Love.
does. Yeah. And there are a few good action scenes. I think they upped the action from Doctor No, because there's a good that little battle royal at the Gypsy camp is really good.
Yes.
Like probably one of the best like action scenes for a long time. And speaking of Russians, though, like the Russians weren't all the goody guys in this movie. Those Krylenko and his Bulgarian assassins, those were all like working for the Russians. So I guess the Russians kind of were the bad guys in this, and they made an attempt on Karen Bay's life. They blew him up. They tried to blow up his desk. Grant killed the Bulgarian working for the Russians. So then that's why they blew up Karam's office. And then we get that cool scene where they go on the gondola through the underground canals and go to Karam had a telescope built underneath the construction of the Russian consulate, and he has a camera that goes up and looks in there. That's straight out of the book too. You can look into their freaking office and see what's going on in their in their meeting room. That was a pretty cool scene, and you see and you don't see her face, but you see Tatiana walking in there. You just see her legs, and so from here things are shaping up nicely.
Yep.
Yeah,
That was a great introduction for
yeah.
her.
But I keep getting off subject, but the Gypsy Cap fight. that set. And actually, I can't wait till you play that video game because there's a level based on that gypsy camp fight, and
Oh wow.
it really goes it goes off the rails in the video game, but I still love it because it has like the same look and feel and design of the movie. Yeah.
I was just gonna say thank you so much for sending me the game. I'll definitely be playing it, and we'll be
Oh
able to
yeah,
do
yeah.
a review at some point of the game
Oh heck
too.
yeah, that would be fun. That would be fun. I love that game not just because it's based on one of my favorite movies, but because I like the gameplay style of it.
Hmm.
A great game. But and there is the gypsy cat scene. There actually is a cut scene with our girls, Zora and Vita wrestling
Okay.
in there. It
Nice.
would have been cool if it would have been cool if they had like a wrestling match engine and you could control one of them in the game, but
Yeah, like Rumble
that doesn't
Roses.
happen.
That'd be hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah, but we get to see the nice belly dance in that scene. Karam is trying to lay low because he had just been bombed, so goes to the gypsy camp that night. But then Kralinko and his men find him anyway, and there's that big battle royal. Bond is really kind of turns into an action star at this time, like an action movie guy. Like he's going around popping people with one shot
Mm.
and the covered wagons. He's knocking those out of place and running over people yeah, he's going around and it's like a big battle royal type act like a action shootout scene, which is pretty cool.
Well, it's a weird scene too, right? Because when I had seen it before, watching the commentary, I always thought it's strange that Bond is sort of just creating chaos. He's
Yeah,
like just letting the burning wagon go into the two guys fighting and stuff. It was like
yeah,
he's
and
not
one
necessarily
of them's a gypsy.
right. Yeah, one of those guys is the gypsy dude, and it's like I don't
Yeah,
know, why are you doing this? And then I watched the commentary, and they said that it wasn't really Bond's fight. The whole point of that
yeah,
sequence was to make him sort of stand out above the chaos. Like he could
yeah,
navigate
yeah,
this whole situation and take care of
yeah,
himself and sort of pick his fights, throughout it,
yeah.
and just sort of he kind of adds to the chaos or whatever, but he
Hmm.
he does that to avoid it, more
Yeah,
direct engagement, which is so different, right,
yeah,
from like Jason Bourne, right, who's like constantly in
yeah,
the fight directly, sort of thing, like a
yeah,
totally
yeah.
different
You're right.
vibe.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, and oh, he does save the chief or the gypsy chief from getting shot. Like he saves him. Like a guy's
Right.
about to snipe him, and then he shoots him, and oh, thank you, you are my son now. Or
Right.
but then
Yeah.
we do see. I love how Grant is always lurking in the background, and he saves Bond. Like a guy's about to kill Bond, and Grant's back there because he needs Bond for his plan. So you see Grant actually shoots the guy that's about to kill Bond, and it's like a mystery. The cool thing about this movie is that the audience knows everything, but Bond doesn't, and it still works really well. Like the audience,
Right.
we get to go inside of Spectre Island and know their plot, and we know exactly where Grant is all the time, but Bond doesn't know, and it just works so well though for the movie. I
Yep.
wonder if it was done where the audience doesn't know, if it would have been that good of a movie,
It would have
because
felt really
in the book,
different.
I just was, yeah, it'd be interesting to see like a take on that. But what about, we were talking about Bond, how he navigates this battle scene. What do you think of Bond in this movie? We already talked about it a bit. Sean Connery's second outing, I think he's just as good as this as he is in any other one,
Oh
and
yeah.
just as good as this in Doctor No. Looks just as cool. What do you think about Bond in From Russia with Love, Sean Connery?
I think it's peak, right? I think it's
Yeah,
I don't think it gets better than
yeah,
his performance here, and not it's I'm a little biased. Obviously, I've already admitted it's my
yeah,
favorite of the Connery films.
yeah.
But I don't think that he is ever more smooth or capable. Is it just the way that he
Hmm.
carries himself throughout the movie as the character and everything. Like, I
Yeah.
think he did an amazing job in Doctor No for it being the first film, his first time with the character
Hmm.
and everything. And Terrence Young's coaching clearly came through even in that one. And
Yeah.
here I think he's just there's more that vibe of he's already done it, so it's a little
Yeah.
more relaxed and natural, I think,
Yeah.
in this one. And
Yeah.
but yeah, again, and I know some people, they would probably say, well, Goldfinger's the first real James Bond film, right? Because that's where
Yeah.
all of
All
the
of it comes
elements,
together.
yeah,
Yeah.
finally
Yeah.
come together for the first time.
Yeah.
And I could certainly understand that argument. It's a great film, but um, for me, there's just something about this movie that I think, we've already touched on it. It's different from all the others in its format, its
Hmm.
plot, the setting, everything else. It's more romantic than a lot of the
Yeah.
films too, right? With his
Yes, it is.
relationship
Yeah.
with Tatiana Romanova, Daniela Bianchi.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
they they had some pretty great chemistry, I would say, as far
Yes.
as like a James Bond and his leading lady goes. I think they're definitely two of the that pairing was one of the best in the whole series, I
Oh,
think.
absolutely. Yeah. Then that scene where he first meets her when she sneaks into his apartment,
Right.
or his
Yes.
when she sneaks into his hotel room,
The most
and
paused
goes and
scene in the whole film,
oh
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. And
Uh,
according to Internet Movie Database trivia, that was a body double, the
really?
naked one.
Wow.
Yeah, but
Well, that's
that
disappointing.
scene there went. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I guess that scene there when he first walks in, he has this towel on, and slips into the bed naked, and then he walks in and he's holding the gun. I think that scene is the audition scene that all Bond girls use, and even new potential Bonds. They that's like the audition scene.
Hmm.
I know I've seen a few of them. I know I saw one with James Brolin and
Okay.
Maud Adams did that exact scene. So that's like the test scene. That's like the test scene for Bond girls and Bonds. Yeah, check it out. The Octopussy
Wait,
auditions that has Maud Adams and James Brolin.
are you saying that that's still like the test? Like you got to get in bed with Maud
Yeah, I
Adams?
don't know about.
That's how you
I don't
become
know
Bond
about.
now?
Yeah, yeah, I don't know about now, but probably up
Yeah.
until the '80s or '90s, I think it was the audition practice scene or
Oh,
whatever.
okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
yeah,
cool. Well, and Maud Adams, I guess,
yeah. Oh,
has remained somewhat involved with the franchise, right? Because she did the some of the
yeah,
voice work on some of the documentaries, and she does some of
yeah.
the
Oh,
narration.
yes, yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's been in two movies. She played a different character in two different movies. But Bond, as far as he goes, like he still has the one-liners, and I don't know if that's a Terrence Young thing, adding a lot of humor into the movies. I think the movie might be a little bit too dark and serious
Hmm.
if he didn't have that humor. I think that's the perfect blend. He has the one-liners and it's kind of some funny moments, just like in Doctor No. And I guess they on the commentary, I forget if it was who was saying that in the commentary that Terrence Young is kind of a jovial guy, or he's kind of
Right.
he's kind of a happy, funny guy. Like he's
Right.
really suave and charming, but happy guy. And I think that's why like these movies work so well. They add a little bit of the humor in, which probably wasn't so much there in the books. I know there was a little bit of humor in the book, but not like the movies. I think that's one of the things that makes the movies so good. A lot of that weird surreal stuff probably that Harry Saltzman comes up with that and then also the humor,
Right.
um the one liners, like I think every kill in this movie has a one liner, and all the little pun with Tatiana. Yeah, love Bond as much as ever in this movie. Like I said, this was the movie where I watched it just for Bond when I was a kid. Like it wasn't because I understood the plot or I thought it was all that exciting of a movie. I watched this movie because of Bond, because I was a fan of his from Goldfinger, and The Spy Who Loved Me, and Bond just carries this movie even if you don't know what's going on with the plot or
Sure.
whatever.
No,
Yeah,
absolutely. He
yeah. So
does.
yeah, and then we're talking about Daniela
Tatiana.
Bianchi.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
Tatiana. Yeah, we're talking about Tatiana. What do you think of the girls in this movie? Starting with Sylvia Trench makes her return, which is unusual for a reoccurring Bond girl. What do you think of Sylvia Trench in this movie? Eunice Gayson returning.
Well, I think a year didn't do anything to her, to you know, to her sex appeal.
Yeah, no,
So,
you're right.
she's in that bikini right in that scene right at the beginning, and
Yeah,
it's one of those sequences too where it's like, oh man, and thank God for Terrence Young picking Eunice Grayson over Lois Maxwell to play Sylvia Trench, because that would have been so strange to have Lois Maxwell in that role and Sylvia as Moneypenny. It would have just, I think, really
yeah,
made things weird. It would have really thrown it off.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
I mean,
You're right. Yeah.
if you got Eunice Grayson as Moneypenny, you're never gonna leave the office, right? I mean,
No,
why
heck no.
why would you leave the office, right? You know?
Yeah, yeah. Not the Lois isn't beautiful, but like
Well,
the
we
jump in her
talked about
bones.
it
Yeah,
when we were talking
yeah,
money pennies, right?
yeah,
We said, like,
yeah, yeah,
you want money penny available. You want her,
yeah,
on the bench, but she's not going to be your star
yeah,
hitter, right? I mean, it's
yeah, yeah.
um
And I like
yeah.
that was like one of the Doctor No references too, is when the office called him on his, or he beeped him on his pager, then he went to his car phone and picked it up, and he says, oh, okay, I'll be there, and or whatever, and she says, oh, last time you did that you went off to Jamaica, I haven't seen you in 6 months. So there was a reference to Doctor No.
That
Yeah,
wonderful blissful half hour they had together in Doctor No.
yeah. Yeah. And I guess she was supposed to be a reoccurring character that would he'd bounce out on her in every movie, and then like up to maybe the sixth one, she would end up being the main Bond girl.
Hmm.
That never came to be. But I heard rumors that the character Paris Carver from Tomorrow Never Dies
Right.
was originally supposed to be Sylvia Trench. Did
Oh,
you ever hear that rumor?
I didn't know that they were going to do that for the Brosnan films.
Yeah,
Wow.
Paris Carver was going to be Sylvia Trent, so I guess it would have been Sylvia Carver, and that I
Interesting.
think that might have been even more sad when she gets killed. If, oh, that's
Right.
Sylvia from
Right.
yeah, yeah. But
Yeah.
I think that the character is kind of based on that, and I think they were gonna go with they were gonna have her be Sylvia, but they ended up just making a new character.
Okay.
I've heard rumors of that, but that's probably just Internet Movie Database stuff. So take it with a grain of salt.
Right. That's
Internet
very
Movie
interesting,
Database
though.
trivia.
If that's true, that's
Yeah,
very
yeah,
interesting.
yeah. But then I guess before we get to Tatiana, we do get Vida and Zora, the fighting gypsy women. They're fighting over the love of one man, in a wrestling match is going to decide which woman gets the man, or the chief's son, or the prince of the village. Right? Is that what it was?
Right.
Um,
Yep.
they were fighting for his love, and so we get these two beautiful women fighting in like a wrestling match. Everyone's looking on, and you can tell Sean's uncomfortable, like he doesn't like to see them like
Right.
beating each other up. And one of them is actually, I think it's Vida and Zora, and one of them is actually Martine Beswick, that played Paula in Thunderball.
Right.
Terrence Young, like, it's a lot of the same actors. If you notice too, Karen Bay's mistress, that beautiful woman, you get that really gratuitous shot of her laying on the bed. Holly Karen Bay, Holly Karen Bay. She's actually the actress that plays the dancer in Mexico at the beginning of Goldfinger.
Oh,
Um,
interesting. I didn't know. I'll look for
but
her then.
the one shocking, positively shocking. It's that girl. Um,
Right. Right. Okay.
Martine Beswick. She plays Zora, and then the other one is Alicia Gurr, plays Vida. The two Vida and Zora, the two gypsy fighters. And I'll throw another book reference in here. In the book, they're both naked as they're fighting.
Well, you know, Ian
Yeah,
Fleming
and
apparently
one of
was a
them.
fan
eh,
of naked women. I've heard
Oh yeah,
allegedly.
yeah. Oh, I absolutely. You're gonna love the book. Yeah, he's kind of a perv. Yeah, he goes into a lot of detail too. Like one of them is like big and voluptuous in the book. Like, and they're both naked. One of them's like big and voluptuous, and one is like thin and athletic looking.
Mhm.
But he goes
Right.
into detail with that in the book.
Light some candles and turn the lights down low when you read a Fleming novel. Is that what you're saying?
It'll be a long time before we get to Man with a Golden Gun, but in the book of that, there's this scene where Bond is, it's totally different plot from the movie, but Bond is working for Scaramanga as like one of his thugs, and Scaramanga doesn't know it's Bond, and they go to this club or whatever, and there's this woman like naked, and I think she might be painted too, and she's dancing on this giant hand, and she's like caressing the hand like a giant statue of a hand. It's like a really weird scene. It seemed like something
Hmm.
they would have used in a Bond movie, but I haven't it hasn't been used yet. But old pervy Fleming. um
Interesting.
anyway, and we can't forget about the main Bond girl of the movie. We almost forgot about her. I don't know how. Like, it's pretty much she pretty much is the movie. Like, the title's referring to her. The main Bond girl of the movie, Tatiana Romanova, played by Daniela Bianchi, beautiful Italian actress. I think she was even a Miss Universe. Is that correct?
I think she was Miss Italy anyway, or the runner up or something,
Miss Italy.
something like
Okay, yeah,
that,
yeah.
right?
Beautiful
Yeah.
girl. Yeah, yeah. First or second. But the point is, beautiful girl to play this very elegant, very beautiful, very young. I think she was the youngest Bond girl at 21,
Hmm.
but she kind of carried herself very well. She seemed very elegant and intelligent. Kind of more one of the more innocent Bond girls too. Like, she really seemed innocent than the other ones.
Right.
But beautiful girl, really great performance from Daniela. But yeah, probably up there, top tier Bond girl for me. But what do you think about Tatiana in From Russia with Love?
I think that you hit it on the head when you said the main Bond girl. That just made me think, yeah, that really sums it up, doesn't
Yeah,
it? I mean, she is just like top tier, I would say, like
yeah,
of all, like she's certainly one of my favorites. And she, I mean, in part, I think because of the film's plot and the way that so much of it is built around her. The whole thing
yeah.
hinges on her really believing that she
Mhm.
is sort of I guess, doing it all for Mother Russia, but actually being manipulated
Yeah,
by Spectre, the same as Bond, just on the opposite
yeah,
side. And then their shared experience. She's one of those especially unique Bond girls in the way that she could actually understand him and his way of life, given her background in, you know, sort of the Russian army, right? Like she's lived in that world of intelligence,
yeah,
counterintelligence, and espionage, and understands it, right? Unlike a lot of the women that he encounters in his
yeah,
adventures. So I think there's a more intimate
yeah,
component to their relationship as a result of that. They don't go into that in great detail in the film, but I don't think they really have to. It's implied well enough that that's the case. And
yeah.
the chemistry between her and Sean Connery is definitely something else, I would say. Some of the best chemistry between Bond and any of the women he encounters, I'd say, in the whole series.
Yes, and they look really good together too.
Yeah.
Like, they're both tall, and they both look good dressed up, like super elegant people. Yeah, really intriguing character too. Like, my first viewing of this, and I think most people feel the same way. Like, you kind of have the idea she's defected from the Russians. Like, you kind of think she really does love Bond, but you're not quite really sure. But you're
Right.
about 90% sure she is. So
Well,
there's a little bit of mystery to her too. But
you you are sure that she's enjoying the mission at the very least.
yes,
No doubt about that.
yeah,
So, um,
yeah. Whether the Russians or Spectre planned it or not, they wanted to. they thought they could lure this handsome man into with this beautiful woman, and they thought the beautiful woman would be lured by the handsome man. Either way,
Yeah, I mean, it was a good plan, right?
yeah,
This is why another reason why the
yes,
film is so good. The plot is absolutely solid, for Odd Spector's part,
yeah,
I'd say.
yes. And I was thinking a good title for this. It was dropped in the book, but a good title for this movie would be "Pimping for England," because that's pretty much what they're pimping out Bond for.
That's right.
Yeah, but that I didn't make that up. That was a line from the book. He was thinking to himself as he's flying over there, like, "Oh, this
Really?
beautiful girl they're sending me over. It's probably a trap, but we might get this Spectre machine. So I'm pimping for England."
Wow, that's hilarious. I
Yeah,
love it.
yeah,
But yeah, I do think that she's
yeah.
one of the best Bond girls in the series. I think in large part that's because she's in
Oh,
so much of the
absolutely.
film, right? Like she's in a lot of it. She has a
Yeah,
ton of lines. There's a lot of Bond
yeah,
girls that really just
yeah,
they may be in a lot of the movie, but they just don't have many lines. That's the other thing. But
yeah,
Tatiana, absolutely, she has a lot of dialogue that she's got to do, and
yes, and
it had that old timey movie feel more because of that, I guess, because of all the dialogue.
yeah, yeah. And that wasn't her voice either. I guess she probably had a really thick Italian accent.
Right.
And I think I read somewhere that's why she didn't really go anywhere in Hollywood. You'd expect her to go straight to the top just from
Yeah.
like her screen presence and the way
Right.
she looks. But
Hmm.
I think she had a really thick accent, a hard to speak an English speaking accent, and I think I read somewhere she didn't like driving around in Los Angeles, and I don't blame her.
Oh yeah. I don't either. I've done that myself, and once is enough. One time was enough.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
tell you what, I'm going to LA next week, and thank God for Retro Tiburon's going to pick me up from the airport. I don't have to drive around in that hellhole.
Oh boy, wow, you're like, yeah, you got a local to show you around. That's what you need when you're in LA.
Yeah,
In
yeah,
fact, I refuse to drive in LA. I
yeah,
will
heck
not
yeah,
go there unless I have a local who, will do the same thing.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, yeah. So, anything
Wow.
else on Tatiana before we go on?
Well, let's say that given the character as well, this is his first experience with a Russian woman, first of many in the series,
Yeah,
and she really set
yeah,
a very demanding standard, I would say, right from the beginning,
yeah.
and
Oh, I agree.
hard to compete with on every level, I'd say. Now,
Yes.
she's not an action hero, but she does save his
Uh,
life at the end, right? She turns on Kleb,
yeah.
essentially turning on Russia, kills
Yes.
Kleb before Kleb can kill Bond, and essentially
Yeah.
defects, right? Because they're at the end,
Yeah.
she's going to England with Bond, so she's
Yes.
defected at that point, you know, and
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yep.
Because I don't think that the Russians would have
Yeah.
taken
One
her
of
back, right? Even if they explained the whole thing of,
no,
oh,
no, no.
Kleb was with Spectre, whatever. I don't think Tanya could have just knocked on the door at Moscow and they'd
uh,
have welcomed her back, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
I would have taken her back if I was the person in charge of taking her back, but I don't think I
Right.
don't think it would have been a good idea.
It would have been an amusing debriefing process, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like you said, that's like one of the few Bond girls who actually got the killing blow in on the final boss.
Yes.
Like her and Domino are the only ones I can think of right now.
Yep. Domino.
Yeah,
And well,
yeah,
of
when we'll
course,
get to her pretty soon.
a lot of the women fought the henchmen, right? Thinking
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah.
Halle Berry fights
Yes.
Frost in Die Another Day,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
Michelle Yeoh fights. Well, she really helped with the main fight in
Yeah.
Tomorrow Never Dies, and
Yeah. She does. Yeah.
yeah, that's right. So
Also, Tracy had a good fight. Like that was a pretty rugged fight for a man on female fight. Tracy fought. What was his name? Herr Gunther.
yes.
or no,
yes, that's
Herr.
right.
He was that German guy, the
Right.
German henchman.
Yeah, he didn't
He was
talk.
the big heavy hitter.
Yeah, the big guy,
Yeah, yeah,
Piz Gloria. Yeah, she fought
yeah,
that guy. That was an impressive
yeah,
fight, actually. But it makes sense. I mean, she's the daughter of this crime
yeah,
lord, right? I mean, obviously, she grew up learning about
yeah,
martial arts and stuff, probably,
yeah,
just to defend herself. So,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
That was good stuff.
that was cool, for sure. Um,
Yeah.
and of course, you got the Russian
Oh heck
ladies
yeah.
later in the series. You know, we'll review Xenia and um,
Yeah.
what's her name?
Natalia.
Natalia. Yes, right.
Yeah, yeah,
Such a fan
yeah.
of Xenia, I can't even remember the other one's name.
Yeah. No, both those girls are
They're
beautiful.
stunners. Yeah, they're both
And she's
stunners.
pretty fight. Yeah, she's pretty feisty. Yeah, pretty feisty in the movie. But I always
Right.
think back to the video game where she has the big like Colt Python or some kind of magnum,
Right.
and she just blows away Zinni.
Yep. Yep. It's hilarious.
Yeah, yeah.
I love it.
Like all you
Yep.
have to do is just stay near her, and she'll just beat the boss fight for you.
Right.
Yeah.
Stand
Okay. Yeah.
back and let her do the work with the Colt. That's right. Hilarious.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's such a heavy hitter, right? I mean, our whole review of the movie.
Yeah.
Obviously, we are big fans of the film, so no surprise that it
Yeah.
has one of the best women in the series for
Oh
sure.
yeah. Yeah. I know we say. Yep. I know we say that about all of them, but top tier for sure.
Right. And all of the Bond films are
This
top
time. This
shelf,
time
but
we really mean it.
this one is like
Yeah.
just like that absolute, that little mini shelf that's hidden
Yeah.
behind the top shelf, right? That's
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
right.
But the other women, Money Penny's back again, and same silly banter. Like I said, I like that scene where he walks in and he's showing off to Money Penny. His hat trick,
Yep.
and then Im is standing. Im is just standing there. It'll be a miracle if he can explain where he's been. He's always late
Right.
to
Yep.
his well, the first two movies he's late to Im's briefing or.
Right.
And then who else do we have? Yeah, who else do we have for the women? I'm kind of getting off subject.
Well, since you're talking about that scene, we should probably
Yeah,
mention just
yeah,
really quick. This is the introduction of Q.
yes. Oh yeah, yeah. We'll get into the allies now. Yeah, we see Q for the first time.
Yep. And the quite very understated performance, right? As far as
Yeah, yeah,
Desmond Llewellyn goes, very by
yeah,
the book and official, and
yeah,
no, there's no banter, there's no
yeah,
insults or anything like that. So it's
yeah,
again, it kind of keeps with that vibe of a more grounded film. Like it felt just more like
yeah,
a government you know employee giving equipment to
yeah.
the agent type thing.
Yes, and even so much so that you wouldn't even expect they'd bring him back, like because they
Right,
they changed his role from the first guy, I think, to Desmond in that movie just for a tiny little scene where he comes in and no jokes, no banter or anything. He just comes in, shows him the briefcase, and it's
right,
like a nice little pleasant. Like Bond doesn't belittle him or anything. It's just a little pleasant interaction, and then he leaves. So I'm surprised they even brought him back, and I'm so glad they did.
right,
Because they could have just got anyone else to do that part. So you never see the full potential of Q in this scene, but I'm glad he's there.
right.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
And then we have M again. Yeah, what do you think of M in this one, Bernard Lee?
I think that he did a great job again. Like I don't think that Bernard Lee ever had like a low point, right?
Yeah,
There's
yeah, you're
no
right.
he's just so good at the role,
Yeah, yeah,
and just so natural. There's nothing
yeah,
there's in the whole series, I think he's just fantastic. I wish there was more to say,
yeah.
but
And
it's
then
just like, he's M.
yeah,
He just does it perfectly.
yeah.
This film is no
Uh,
exception.
I, yeah, I think we mentioned this scene earlier, but I liked when he's listening to Tatiana's recording of the description of the lecture, and
Yeah.
she's saying, "Oh, am I as exciting to you as all those Western women?" He says, "Well, to be honest, there was this time when me and M were in Tokyo," and then he stops the tape really fast. Money penny, go back to your office.
Right. And of course she turns on the mic and she's listening from her
Yeah,
office
yeah,
immediately and
yeah. And M knows it, huh?
yep. And he's like, Miss
Yeah,
Moneypenny, is you're no doubt listening to this. You mind taking down a wire?
yeah. I love it. Yeah. So then we have, I guess, the only notable friend of Bond in this movie is the big one in this movie, Karam Bey.
Yes.
Who's I mentioned, I think you mentioned it too. He's the best Bond ally in the whole series.
Yeah, you
Played
don't
by
need anybody else, right? When you got Karen Bay, who off
yeah
played by Pedro
Armendariz. I always say his name wrong.
let me get
Pedro
the
Armendariz, like a classic actor from Mexico. But
yeah,
I guess Terrence Young really wanted him in this movie, and he was dying as he was making this movie.
right. Um
Yeah, like I was saying, you can't tell from the movie because he's so full of life. Like you would never know this guy's like on his deathbed.
right. Yeah, he is I actually as far as I know, there's two people that come to mind when I think of about that. There's Pedro Armendariz and there is Raul Julia, who,
Yes,
of course,
who
played
did?
Gomez
Yeah,
Adams and M.
yeah,
Bison in the Street Fighter film, and he was
yeah,
filming, I think, the second Adams Family movie when he was very sick and close to death, right?
yeah. Yes, same with Street Fighter, and he just did Street Fighter because his kids begged him to be in it because they're Street Fighter fans. So he did that role, and he
Yeah,
knocked it out of the park. That we got to watch Street Fighter together sometime. If you haven't
yeah.
seen it,
I've never seen it. Yeah,
oh
that's
man,
that's one I
yeah,
gotta
yeah,
we gotta
yeah.
watch.
He was dying. Yeah, he was dying during that movie too, and you would never know that. Like that, man.
Hmm.
He gives it a 500% in that movie.
And to me, it's
Uh,
like, that's
yeah,
though that's the mark of a really great actor. I mean, could you imagine,
yeah,
being so close to death and all the things you
yeah,
gotta deal with, and yet you can
yeah,
still go into that role when you're on the set
yeah,
and just be that person. It's really
yeah,
speaks to the character of those people, how impressive they
yeah.
were as far as their work ethic
Yes.
went.
Yeah, but as far as Karam goes, like such a likable character ever since the first time we see him, such a likable character. Same in the book. Like I think he's a favorite among like Bond readers in the book. He's really interesting character. The head of Station T in Istanbul, Karam Bey. His name is Darko Karam in the book. And Bey is like a title, I guess, in Turkish, like it's saying like Mr. or Sir.
Right.
So he's the Darko Karam Bey, or his name is Darko Karam in the novel. But what a cool character! Like I like how he started off. He said in the movie, "I started off in the circus bending bars and breaking chains with my teeth, and now he's like head of Station T." And
Right.
and he makes all kind. He has all of his sons working for him, and they're all really loyal employees. They all work for him, and he loves making the kids. He has a lot of sons, and he has his beautiful mistress there. Yeah,
Well, how can you not love that character, right?
I know, huh?
He's just such a likable person, the
I
way that
know.
he plays him.
And he has his little telescope down there underneath the Russian consulate, so I like how he was saying, yeah, my daily exercise. He rows he rows the gondola or the boat from Station T all the way to the Russian consulate underground in the tunnels. You do it
Right.
every day. It's 11 o'clock and 3 o'clock every day
Yep.
uh, um, to check out what the Russians are doing.
Yep. Good exercise.
Yeah. And then yeah, it's Karen Bay's, yeah, like we said, really sad when he dies, and that's one of like the deaths that impacts Sean Connery's Bond a lot. Like we usually don't see him show much emotion, And
Right.
not that he's sitting there sobbing and crying, but like you can tell that was a close friend of his.
Right.
When we find Karam's body in the train after Red Grant had killed him, and the Russian agent too.
Mm-mm. Yeah, it was definitely more impactful than most of the deaths I think in the Connery films on
Yeah,
him and on the audience. I think I mean
yeah,
that was a shocking turn and very
yeah.
unexpected in that moment, right?
When I first saw it as a kid, I was not expecting that guy to die. I just thought like, okay, we're gonna go on with the adventure now, and maybe Karam will stay there, whatever.
Right. I mean, it's such a
Yeah,
likable character. Why would they kill him?
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, I didn't realize that's what happened in the book. Yeah. So speaking of treachery, what do you think about the villains in this movie? We got this one has a huge ensemble of villains actually. Like starting with, like I said, Walter Gatell, who plays
Right.
General Gogol later on.
Yep.
He plays the main thug with a scar. He has a really cool look, that actor. And his character, I never hear them say it in the movie, but everywhere, like I see him reference, his name is Morzini. I don't know if does he have a number? Is he like number 3 or anything? I never
I
hear him
don't think it's ever
them
referenced in the
say his
film.
name. Yeah, and then yeah, that's a cool villain. He ends up burning up at the end on that cool action boat chase scene at the end of the the barrels. And then we have Kronstein, the mastermind,
Yep.
the chess player. That guy really has a distinct look. I think they were saying he was a friend of Sean Connery, and they got that guy because he looks like an intellectual and looks like he could be the mastermind behind a plot like that, and a chess champion.
Right.
But yeah, really distinct looking guy. Like that's the perfect guy. I think he went on to do a lot of other spy movies because he has that look like he's perfect for a role like that.
Right.
That Kronstein role, the chess playing champion who is the mastermind behind the plan. And it's the same from the book. He's actually this in the book too. He's a chess champion and he's playing the chess, and he gets a message to go report to Smurfs. He works, of course, it's all Smurfs in the book, but he's the mastermind behind the thing, like supercomputer, like brain. And I think they picked that guy. Of course, his plan failed because all plans fail against Bond. And he's so cocky, like, "Oh, it wasn't my plan. Your guys are just idiots." Like when he's sitting at blow, like, "Oh, it's not my plan. It's your guys are idiots." My Kronstein never fails. And then you see Walter Gatell walk up, and the poison tip comes out of his shoe, and you think he's gonna kill Rosa Klebb, but then he kicks Kronstein, and Kronstein has a cool little death scene there.
Yep.
Really good acting.
He's in such
But
shock. He can't believe it.
yeah, yeah. But speaking of those three, we have Rosa Klebb in the middle, and to me, I think she's the main villain of the movie. What do you think? Because Blofeld's the mastermind, but you can't really say Blofeld's the main villain. That would be like saying Blofeld's the main villain in Thunderball when it's actually Emilio Largo.
Number two.
I would say
Yeah.
Rosa Klebb. Yeah, I would say Rosa Klebb is the main villain of this movie. What do you think?
Yeah, I would agree with that. She's the one that executes Kronstein's plan, right? And
Yeah,
she chooses Red Grant, and he obviously is
yeah,
the primary physical opponent to 007 in the
yeah.
film, and it wasn't really a poor choice, right? Like as far as
No,
Kronstein trying
yeah,
to say like, oh, Kleb's people failed or whatever, it was like,
yeah.
well, kind of, but really it's that you all failed from the beginning because you're in a James Bond movie. What did you think was going to happen?
Yeah, and
you know.
yeah, no kidding.
But
And
yeah,
we
no,
do see it. Yeah,
she's like if you took the Wicked Witch of the West from The Wizard of Oz
yeah,
and she was a Bond
yes,
villain, right? That's what
yeah,
her vibe is to me.
dude, you're right. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, she's perfectly cast. And yeah, she's so old and mean and ugly
Right?
looking. But from what I hear, like she's a really super nice lady. Like all you hear,
Hmm.
like from the other ones, like how not. It's crazy how like all these terrible characters in movies always in real life turn out to be like the nicest people. uh,
Right?
but you always hear everyone gloating about how nice she was, and she was like a classic actor. She's been around for like decades before that movie. And I
Right.
think even they were mentioning that song "Mack the Knife." They put her name in there.
Right. Louis Armstrong added it to his version, right? He put
Yeah,
her
yeah,
name at
yeah,
the end.
yeah, yeah. And I always heard her name in there when I heard that song. Isn't that the Rosa Klebb from from Rusted with Love? And then like I never put two and two together. Like that's her name. I thought maybe there was someone else named that, or that's just a made up
Right.
name. But that was the name. Yeah, but yeah,
Yep.
she's an interesting character. Like she's puts it all together, and she's the one that tricks Tatiana into think she's working for the Russians. Do not talk about this to anyone. If you do, you will be shot.
Right.
Yeah, you can tell she has like lesbian tendencies. Like she's always caressing or
Right.
touching Tatiana. Like you're a very beautiful girl. Take off
Right.
your jacket and turn around for me. And that's right out of the book too. They really go into it in the book though. She's I don't want to talk too much, but yeah, but
Right.
always a cool character. Classic Bond villain. Like that's like one of the ones like Nick Nack
Mm-hmm.
or Jaws or Odd Job. Like that's like just the classic archetype of a Bond villain. Rosa Klebb there. I think they even got Frau for what's her name? Frau from Austin Powers is probably based on her.
Yeah, Frau Farbissina.
Yeah, Far From Abyss. Yeah, I'm sure that's inspired by Rosa Klebb there. That character,
Absolutely.
as
Yep.
yeah, yeah, just a classic character. And then and before we get to the big hitter in this movie, I just want to mention Blofeld is in this. And this is the first time we ever see him, and he has a mysterious Dr. Claw type vibe where you don't see his face. I thought that was a cool in the
Right.
first few movies how you never saw Blofeld's face. Because in
Yep.
the novels as well, in Thunderball, he was just the guy behind the scenes that ran the thing, and he wasn't like the main villain of the story, but he's the
Mm.
guy behind the scene. I love the way they don't show him, and it's actually Anthony Dawson who played Professor Dent is the actor right there uh, that you uh, that you see his hand and he's stroking the cat. But I guess the big heavy hitter of this movie as far as villain goes is Robert Shaw, and we mentioned him earlier, who plays Red Grant. And oh man, I want to get into the book, but he has a whole backstory in the book that's like half the book, or no, maybe not half the book, maybe like the first 100 pages of the book is all Red Grant's backstory,
Right.
and I think that the film version of him is just as good or better, played by Robert Shaw. And when
Yep.
we first see him, he's getting a massage. I forgot to mention that really lovely, voluptuous blonde that's massaging him. She's all oiled up. I could tell on the Blu-ray how oiled up and wet she was, and
Right.
she's massaging Robert Shaw. That part is in the novel too. It starts off he's being massaged. Of course, the woman's topless in the novel who's massaging him, but it's kind of like from her perspective. The first chapter, like what is this guy I'm massaging? This guy like he's not aroused by me. He's like super handsome and attractive, but I can tell like he's been through stuff and maybe he's killed people and he seems like a psychopath. You get the perspective of the girl in the first couple of chapters that's massaging him, and like how sexy I am and I'm massaging him and he's not aroused at all. Like what is with this guy? There's something off about this guy. And she's kind of afraid of him. But you see in the movie, and then Rosa Klebb and Walter Gattel walk up, and he stands up to attention. Robert Shaw's like a super fit guy. Back then, he's kind of like later on there were more villains like him, like the blonde European looking like muscly guy. That they would use a lot of villains like him later on. Um,
Right.
but we see Rosa Klebb puts on the nux and socks him in the when he's standing at attention. She socks him right in the gut with and he doesn't even flinch. She's like, okay. This guy'll do. We want this guy.
Right.
But what do you think about Red Grant?
I think he was a great foil for Bond. Robert Shaw, I totally agree with you.
Oh
I think
heck
he was
yeah,
a great
heck
actor.
yeah.
Did a fantastic job in the role. Super sinister. Any man with blonde hair who can,
Mm-hmm.
come across as that severe in the early 60s is pretty tough, I
Yeah.
think. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't even notice he had blonde hair until I was watching the Blu-ray of it, and
Oh,
then it was just
really?
like it registered to me. Yeah, this time watching, I was like, wow, he's got blonde hair, and not that that means anything, but it's just interesting, right?
Yeah.
You don't typically see that,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so I just thought, like, God, that's how intense this guy was. Like, I didn't even notice his hair,
Yeah.
you know. Um,
Did you do you ever get the Daniel Craig vibe from him? I think he looks a lot like Daniel Craig, especially with how he
yes,
wears his suit and his
right.
facial, the way his face is built.
And
Yeah.
I thought that at the same time. It's like, well, Daniel has blonde hair,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
I remember when he was going to be Bond, that was such a big people were upset
Yeah.
about it, or people are always upset with
Yeah.
every new Bond about something, it seems, but
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
that was the thing, and people were like, oh, a blonde guy can't be Bond, and then here Daniel Craig comes out
Yeah.
and he's like more physical than any of
Yeah.
them I've ever been.
Yeah.
Super
Yeah.
intense. um so yeah, I thought Robert Shaw was fantastic. I think he's one of the best villains in the series.
Yeah, I think so too.
As far as and certainly if you're going to call him a henchman, then wow, yeah, he's like top tier henchman.
Yeah. Yeah.
If we're not going to
Yeah,
consider
I
him a
think
main
he
villain.
yeah, I would say he's somewhere on a fine line between main villain and henchman. There's
Yeah,
never really been one like him.
no, and he's much more
Yeah.
cold, calculating, more of a
Yeah.
threat to Bond than most of the henchmen in the films for sure.
Yeah.
So I mean, he,
Yeah.
that was a close fight. He almost had him.
Yeah. And that was all the actors. I guess they were gonna have stuntmen do that fight, but they ended up doing it all with the actors. You could tell how badass those
Right.
actors are.
Yep.
There was such we talked about it before in one of our favorite fight scene episode, but that's both those actors, Sean Connery and Robert Shaw, doing all those stunts in that. And there's it's real so brutal. I even noticed there's a power bomb in there. I don't know if you watch pro wrestling, but the time when Bon Leg ends up on top of Grant, like he picks him up and power bombs him
Right.
on
Yeah.
the
hmm Like the he picks him up and like throws him
yeah, yeah,
the seat
yeah.
there, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and the seat. Yeah, I always love that part where Bond has him like in the front headlock, and he's like swinging his body and smashing him against
Right.
the door.
Both sides.
Yeah,
Tatiana's
that
knocked out. Like
yeah,
he gets knocked into
yeah,
Tatiana's bed. They both get knocked into
yeah,
Tatiana's bed, I think, at
yeah,
one point, and she
yeah,
doesn't move at all because she's been drugged.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um.
Yeah, the editing. We got to talk about Peter Hunt's editing. That it's
Yeah.
so many like in that scene. It's such a good, well edited fight scene too, and in such tight area.
It's
And I especially
amazing.
like the part where like Grant is boxing him, and like you kind of see like a quick shot of Grant like boxing him up close, and you see Bond like holding his hands up like in a defensive guard,
Right.
and you see like Grant there like throwing the punches. That's so cool.
Yeah, it's such a cool fight. It's relatively quick, but
Yeah,
it feels like it goes
yeah,
on forever
yeah. It
because it's
does.
so
Yeah,
intense with the editing, the way that they
yeah,
did it, and the
yeah,
window breaks and you hear the train screaming
yeah.
outside the window as it's just yeah, the sound
Hmm.
and the sound and the film
Hmm.
editing in that sequence is just top notch. It's
Yeah.
so good.
And the one thing I was gonna say, for many years, I didn't realize he killed him with his own watch, because it
Mm,
was so dark when I would watch it on VHS.
right.
I thought it was something way more graphic. And I go, man, that's gross. I thought he stabbed him with a knife, and then like he carved the knife through his body, like up to his neck. That's what I
Oh,
thought was going on. I
wow.
go, man, because it was so dark, and you could see like the blood's line on him.
hmm
Because I couldn't see the garrote and the wire because on the it was just so dark and it was hard to see the footage. I thought that's what like he stabbed him like in the under the armpit or something, and then it's like
Right.
carved the knife up through his neck. That's what I thought he did for many years when I was a kid. Like, man, that's pretty graphic.
Yeah, that's
Because you see
crazy.
him, you see him choking him with the grunt. I thought like that was the knife, like he was carving it across his chest.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So you thought it was even
that,
more violent
that,
than it was.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So probably like when I was a teenager, I saw like a good like, oh, okay, that makes sense because they're always setting up the grot, and then he ends up killing him with his own weapon, which works really good.
Well, and the garrote is super violent too, right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's
Oh,
it's like
yeah.
just such a brutal personal weapon,
Yeah.
right? And
That would just that would
yeah,
just cut into
oh,
your
yeah.
artery. Yeah.
I mean, there'd be blood, right, if it was a real one. Like
Yeah.
that's the thing. Like
Yeah.
it's the but
Yeah.
the the other thing is Robert Shaw, the way that he looks when he gets the watch out, like he's got this super sinister smile,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you can tell like he's just Karen Bay said it
Yeah.
earlier in the film about what's his name, the Bulgarian, this man
Mm-hmm.
Krylenko,
Oh,
this
yeah.
man,
Yeah. Krilenko. Yeah.
remember
Yeah. We
him?
forgot to mention. Yeah.
He
He's a kill. This
kills
man kills for fun or what?
right, yeah, this man kills for
Yeah.
pleasure, and that's what it looked like.
Yeah.
Grant was the same way at the end,
Yeah.
like really
Yeah.
Krylenko just looked more scared the whole time at the gypsy camp,
Yeah. Yeah.
than anything. But Red Grant sure looked like he killed for pleasure at the end.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. 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 No kidding. Yeah. Forgot to mention Krilenko and his demise. That was a forgot to talk about Krolinko after he made the attempt on Karen Bay. They tracked him to his hideout, and he was climbing out of that poster. And when I was a kid, I always thought it was Marilyn Monroe, but kind of like a weird like Mandela effect type thing.
right.
But it ended up in the novel. It is a poster of Marilyn Monroe, and he comes out of the mouth. He comes out of the mouth of Marilyn Monroe in the novel.
Interesting. You
But
know what? You know
but
why
in
they probably didn't do it? It was because
uh,
she had just died, probably
oh,
like
okay. Oh, you're
right
right.
around
Yeah.
that
Okay.
time, right?
But
That's
it
yeah.
turned out, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I didn't realize that. Yeah, but it
I
turned out
believe
to be,
I could be wrong about my dates, so don't quote me. But
yeah.
she died in the early '60s. I know that. So
Okay,
yeah.
it might have just been a way to plug another Harry Saltzman and Albert Broccoli production that Call Me Buana with Bob Hope, and that was Anita Ekberg.
Okay,
He
right.
came out of her mouth,
She has a
which was
lovely
similar in the
mouth, that
book.
Anita.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, and wait till you play the game. That scene is in the game too.
Nice. I didn't realize that was another Saltzman broccoli picture. That's interesting.
Yeah, and you actually see up on the poster. I think that's the only time within a movie you see Harry Saltzman
Oh
and Albert
wow.
Broccoli's name on the top of the corner, the top left corner of that poster. It says, or that billboard. It says, Harry Saltzman and Albert Broccoli presents "Call Me Buana"
I
with
can't
Bob
believe I
Hope.
missed
And
that.
but I forgot to mention that scene. That's like one of the iconic moments of the scene of the movie
Yeah.
where Karam snipes him out of there with Bond's rifle,
Yep. On his off of his
and which
shoulder.
was that. Yeah, which was out of the book too, but I think in the book he already had climbed down and he was starting to walk away, and then Karam shot him
Right.
on the road. Before we get on to the ending, though, I wanted to mention with the villains. This has that like bonus boss fight at the end. This is the first time we see one. You see it a lot in the Guy Hamilton movies. Like give you an example. At the end of Live and Let Die, you think it's over, but Teehee's in the train.
Yep.
And then in Man with a Golden Gun, you think it's over, but Nick Nack's in the boat. And then Diamonds Are Forever, you think it's over, but Kid and Wint show up in the boat
Mm-hmm.
or in the ocean cruise liner. It always happens in Guy Hamilton movies, but in this one is Terrence Young, and it happens at the end. There's a little bonus boss fight at the end, like Rosa Klebb shows up as you think she's the maid, and
Right.
and she thinks Tatiana still works for her, and she shows up, and there's like a little bonus boss fight at the end. I think it worked out good. That wasn't in the novel. Tatiana killing her, like oh crap, I'm saying too much. Like, I'm not going to say anything more about the novel, but I
No,
like
no, it's cool.
I like how she's so little and scrappy, and it wouldn't look right for Bond to beat up a little woman like that. But it's still scary because she has that poisonous shoe
Right.
and she's swinging it, so it is pretty scary. And then Tatiana shoots Rosa. For a
Mm-hmm.
minute, you think maybe she is still evil and she's gonna kill Bond, but then she shoots Rosa Klebb. A
Right.
terrible woman.
Right.
Yeah,
Um,
she's had her kick.
and then the Matt Monroe song comes on, and they're in
Yeah,
the
yeah,
canals in Venice.
yeah, yeah.
Yep.
So we get such a good finale in this movie. First, we get the Red Grant fight, and you would expect it to be over after that. Then there's the whole sequence where he beats up the Grant's contact and steals the flower truck, and then there's the helicopter attack on him. It's something out of North by Northwest
Right. Which they even
type
admitted that was
moment.
their
Yeah,
inspiration for that scene.
yeah. So, and then we get that, and I don't know if you noticed, but they put that wonderful Monty Norman music from Doctor No on that
Right.
scene.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
like, get that crap out of here. No, just kidding. No. Can you imagine? Like, what if that was like? I wish there would have been a John Barry written one right there, but anyway.
Right.
But that was a cool scene, and then we get the boat chase scene, which was not. It was first Spectre wasn't even in the book, but we get that boat chase scene where he kills Walter Gattel's character. I just forget his name, like because they never say it.
Right.
Morzini. So you get that scene at the end, classic Bond setup where they shoot the fuel canisters and he pushes them all off, and then he shoots it with a flare gun and blows them all up, which looked like a pretty dangerous stunt.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
They accidentally they had to do it twice because
yeah,
there was a mix up when they were doing the rehearsal, and
yeah.
like somebody thought that they were actually shooting, but they weren't actually shooting. It was just a
Oh right,
rehearsal, I
yeah,
think, and
yeah,
they detonated the the bombs or whatever, and they weren't supposed to.
yeah.
So
Oh right,
they
yeah,
had to reshoot the whole thing,
yeah.
apparently.
Yeah, so there were a couple of mishaps. What about the story? I think they may have mentioned it on the commentary. I think I read it somewhere else where Terrence Young was in a helicopter and it crashed into the water and he was submerged for a bit before he was rescued and he almost didn't
Yes.
get to complete the movie, but I think the producers insisted and he wanted to complete it.
Oh, he started shooting the same day. I watched that part. Then everybody
Oh,
was
excellent!
amazed.
Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
because they got him out
Yeah,
of the
yeah, yeah,
helicopter. He got out
yeah, yeah.
and it was at the bottom of the lake, and
Oh, wow! Oh, that's
yeah,
scary.
it was
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
And apparently they were able to safely get out, and to everybody's astonishment, he was like, "All right, let's set up the next shot."
Heck
Like the
yeah,
same day apparently. So,
yeah,
you know, I thought that was pretty cool.
yeah. Heck yeah.
I mean, that adds to that whole lore of Terrence Young kind of being James Bond, right?
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think we owe a lot of the modern James Bond to Terrence, or the film James Bond we know of. We probably owe a lot to that first director.
right?
uh,
Yeah, absolutely.
it's just for like the style and I think maybe the humor too. I'm so glad they added in like the one-liners and it kind of made it a little bit lighter of a movie.
Well, it
Yeah, so
defines the
great.
character so much, right? As far as the films
Yeah,
go,
yeah,
he is so much more iconic because of the humor. And I know some people
yeah,
don't like it or whatever, but to me, that's like
yeah,
that's what makes him different from most of
yeah,
the spy sort of characters and stuff. Like most of them are
yeah.
either like really severe or
Hmm.
just more mysterious. Like they're afraid to even try humor in spy stories a
Yeah.
lot of the time.
I hate to say it, but I think they're kind of going that way with these new Bond movies.
Oh yeah, no, the Craig films were
Yeah,
definitely darker,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah. There's
Yeah.
some good scenes like the scratching my balls one was pretty funny.
Yeah, I have to say, actually, I do think that that's like the one of the
Yeah,
best puns of the
yeah,
whole series. I
yeah,
forgot to mention that one in the that's one I really should have mentioned
yeah,
in our best of because that
yeah,
is one of my favorites.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, they are more severe. They're more violent, but
Hmm.
fortunately, they haven't totally abandoned the puns and
Yeah.
the humor.
Yeah.
You
No.
know, there's still a
Yeah.
bit of it there. It's just a little darker.
Hmm. Yeah. Do you have anything else to say before we talk about our final thoughts?
I just want to mention Peter Hunt again because we talked a lot
Yeah.
more about his editing in the Doctor
Yeah.
No episode we did before this one, which was great.
Yeah.
But his editing on From Russia with Love is amazing. It's still, you know, and let's talk about the restoration too. The Blu-ray looked fantastic,
Yeah.
right? As well, like
Oh, yeah.
once
Oh, it looks
again,
so good.
yeah. Didn't it feel more like a movie that was just shot than a movie that was shot
Yeah.
60 years ago?
Yeah. I don't know how that's like wizardry how they can do this. I didn't know that was possible.
Right? Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
pretty
You can
amazing
see so
process.
many details. Yeah.
I was just gonna ask, did you watch the restoration process from the Doctor No extra?
No, I didn't watch that.
Okay, so let me just talk about it
Oh.
really quick
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go back
Yeah.
and watch it after the show,
Okay.
but I'll give
Yeah.
you the gist of it here. Basically, what they were able to do with these older films was they found the negatives, the film negatives, not
Yeah.
old films, but the actual original negative
Yeah. Yeah.
from the filming, and they were able to put it into the scan tool that digitizes the film with, I believe it was 8K scans. It's either 4K or 8K.
Whoa.
And so they got the original film, not a I mean, it's, you know,
Uh-huh.
obviously aged, but commonly they said with most restorations they don't come from negatives, they come from
Uh-huh.
reprints over the years, and over the years the reprints deteriorate inevitably, and so it makes the
Uh-huh.
restoration process more challenging. So when you have the
Uh-huh.
film negative, though, it's a much more crisp, you know, copy of the film, I guess, than most of the derivatives that are made from it. So
Yeah.
anyway, my understanding is they did this scanning with this tool that very lightly and slowly turned the films and took these 4K and 8K image shots
Whoa.
of every frame. And you know, so they got these massive files. They got servers, you know, at this place that does
Yeah.
this, that hold these files, that the digital effects people can then go in and clean up any imperfections in the film and do all kinds of enhancements and things. And that's where, you know, finally we get the Blu-ray prints, you know, derived from their
Whoa.
work that we're actually able to watch on these sets.
That's
Um,
incredible.
yeah, so they put a ton of work into
That's a
to the
lot of work,
process.
dude. Yeah.
Yeah. But you know,
Wow.
movies that are definitely worth it, right? Like, thank goodness the producers and the companies that own these properties now are willing to do that
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Do you know if they had access to all the negatives for all the movies or just certain movies?
I'm not sure about that. I'm hopeful, of course. Like, I
Yeah.
hope they did it with all of them, but I don't know. We'll find
Okay.
out probably as we go through the series.
Yeah.
I'm hoping it's
Oh,
at least
excellent.
through, you know, On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because I was hoping some of as much as I love On Her Majesty's Secret Service, a lot of the scenes are really dark and it's hard to see. I would love to see it
Right.
like a little bit more clarity because I think a lot of it's like shot at nighttime,
Yes. Yes. It would
and it
be
would be
amazing
cool
to
to
see the
see.
ski chase like restored
Yeah.
like this, right? It'd be incredible.
Yeah, just like in Jaws, when I would watch Jaws before they restored it, it looked like it was nighttime, really dark. You couldn't see anything. The girl just looked like a silhouette at night. On the freaking Blu-ray, it's no longer a PG movie. You see that naked girl perfectly.
They had to re-rate it, right?
I don't know about that, but
Oh
man,
boy.
you can see everything now.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah,
That's pretty
yeah.
cool. I want to say again, thank you to all of the people who worked on the restoration of these films, because as a fan, it's been an absolute joy to experience these original James Bond films in digital high def restoration.
Oh yeah, I
So,
see what you're talking about now. I don't think
mhm.
you were overhyping the last one on the Doctor No
Right.
video.
Yeah, and if you
Yeah,
liked it on From Russia
yeah,
with Love, you should go back and watch Doctor No on the Blu-ray too. I mean, it,
yeah.
it looks just as good.
Okay,
Like, it's
excellent.
it's amazing. So we'll cover From Russia with Love, the book, and the video game in a future episode, I'm sure. And because I know it's one of your favorite
Yeah.
video games, right?
Oh, absolutely. I can't wait for that. So with that, I guess after your most recent viewing, since you watched it in 4K restored version, has your opinion on From Russia with Love changed? Do you like it more, or do you like it less? So what do you think about From Russia with Love now?
Well, it was already a pretty high opinion. It was already my favorite of the Connery films, but after seeing the Blu-ray on the really nice TV, it's definitely. I think it's yeah. I like it even more than, than I did before, and continuing to
Oh,
see new
excellent.
things on each viewing is also a real joy for a film you've seen so much. How about
Yes.
you? What do you think about it versus
Uh,
when you had watched it before?
yeah, I think it's still around the same spot, if not a little higher. It seems like every time I watch a movie, I like it more and more from this series. So I always had it probably in my top three, or if not top five. I think it's still up there.
Right.
Um, yeah, editing from Peter Hunt's just well. The movie is so well paced for my in my opinion, and it just has so much intrigue and so much suspense, especially towards the end. And I do love the set. I think I might prefer the Ken Adams set design, just that really flamboyant, over the top
Right.
set designs. But I mean, I don't know if that would have worked well with this movie. So I'm glad they got Sid Kane in here, because these are all beautiful sets.
Absolutely.
Really nice, like, color style too. It works good for the movie. As of now, I think it's probably in my top three. But that might change as we continue this series. But yeah, it's always been up top three, top five, and I think it's still in the same spot for me. Like I said, every time you watch it, you notice something different. I noticed a lot of stuff different this time. Watching it on my new TV with the Blu-rays. I have a very high opinion of this movie.
hmm So I guess it's about the same for
Yeah.
both of us. We love this one. This was a joy
Hmm.
to watch. I've
Yeah.
really thank you for the conversation. It's been really fun to do a deep dive on this
Oh,
film.
thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. And anyone else watching, let us know what you think of From Russia with Love down in the comments. Start up a conversation about From Russia with Love. If we missed anything, let us know. I think we were pretty darn thorough today. I,
Yeah.
I think we went over our time limit. But it's going to be tough editing this, but I'm going to enjoy it. I had a fantastic time talking to you about this. And like I
Yeah.
said, anyone wants to talk about Doctor No or From Russia with Love, let us know in the comments what you think about it.
Let us know what you think about Doctor No versus From Russia with Love, because that would be interesting too. Not just to hear from us,
Yes.
but what is your impression watching the two films? Do you like one more than the other? What do you think about Connery's performance? And what do you think about the locations, the women, all of the things between the two films? Because they're
Hmm.
very different films.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Direct sequel, but very different film. Like, in a lot of ways, it's very similar. Like, the whole airport scene at the beginning is kind of has the same vibe of Doctor No.
Right.
But and the M's office, the MI6, all pretty much the same. But then, like, the style of the movie totally changes from Doctor No. So we'd be happy to hear your guys' opinion on that. And if you haven't seen either movie, let us know if we've intrigued you to watch them.
And
but
if you
but
haven't seen either movie, go watch them right now, okay? Because they're definitely worth watching.
Yeah.
Get the Blu-rays, and watch the Blu-rays.
If you haven't watched it, you must really like us. You must really like Tylord and Wubs if you watch this whole thing and you've never seen them.
Right? And thank you too.
So,
Thanks for being here.
yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So great time we had. Thanks again, Wubs. I can't tell you how much you're making me realize my life dream here, reviewing every Bond movie. I never thought I would do something like this,
Right?
but we're doing it now. So you have any final thoughts? What a great episode this was. It was so fun to talk about From Russia with Love. You have any final thoughts?
Well, just that it really feels like everything in life to this point has sort of paled in comparison to this experience. So I'm just happy to be along for the ride.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah. So I guess we'll end it with that. I don't know if you like the next movie as much as this one, but this one has always been I'm so excited for the next one. But we probably won't get around to it. We probably won't get around to it for a while because I think I might be busy the next couple of weekends, so we might get around to it for a while.
Right.
I don't know how your schedule's going, but I can't wait to get from Goldfinger on our next review.
Oh, yeah.
I'm getting lightheaded thinking about it.
It's shocking.
So,
Positively shocking.
Yeah. So in the meantime, if you're interested in that proposition I made where you want to make a 30-second video on who your favorite Bond is and why, or you can make it a minute or 3 minutes or whatever, let me know. And we can put together a compilation of viewers' favorite Bond. And of course, offer still goes out to Omega Ace Gaming if you want to do a Casino Royale 1954 review with us. Let us know. With that, I guess we'll conclude the episode.
Yeah, regarding the submissions for the James Bond, your favorite James Bond in 30 seconds, do you want those in video or do you want audio only?
I would say just send me an audio on Discord.
Okay, cool.
No, if you can only do video for whatever reason, I can do the video, but
Right.
it'd probably be easier just to do the audio.
Okay.
Yeah, so that offer's still out, so let us know.
And for any of our other friends, if there's any other episodes you'd like to do or be involved in, just let us know. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know Vince was interested in when we get to Timothy Dalton. That might not be for a while.
That's gonna be what?
I can't wait to
a year.
I can't wait for that. It's gonna be like one life highlight after the next.
That's what these feel like each week. Yeah, we're on a roll here with some really good movies.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be a lot of anticipation. We're gonna have a lot of fun reviewing all of these films. It's gonna be tough to top this experience, I think. From Russia with Love and Goldfinger and Thunderball. That's a hell of a trilogy coming up. So yeah, and check out Omega Ace, Retro Tiburon, Retro Ryan, and DLP, Dad Level Podcast. Check out my channel if you get a chance. My top 5. I'll have my first interview with Vince coming up within the next week or so, getting posted, and I'll also have, well, actually, by the time this is posted, it'll be out, so you can go check that out. And you and I did our interview for that too. I'll have an interview with Tylord on his 5 favorite video games. So yeah, check him out. It's going to be a lot of fun. He's got some great picks, and so did Vince. So enjoy.
All right. Yeah, excellent. I can't wait to see those. But with that, I guess we'll close it. We'll see you next time for Goldfinger. You got anything else, Wubs?
But do you expect me to talk more?
Well done, boys. Another successful mission. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this debriefing, please like and share it with your friends.
Do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.